The anime begins with a girl reflecting on how she was once named Alicia, but now finds herself as a young girl with black hair and golden eyes. She is the only daughter of the powerful William noble family. Just yesterday, she was someone else entirely, and now with certainty she knows she has been reborn as a villainess. Determined to live up to this new identity, Alicia decides that she will become the greatest villain in history. Upon leaving her room, she greets her maid with a cheerful "good morning," surprising the servant as this is something Alicia had never done before. Alicia, however, quickly acknowledges that this is due to her never rising early or greeting the maid in the past, but she vows to change that from now on. Next, Alicia heads to the library to begin studying. She realizes there is much she must learn if she is to truly embody her role as a villainess. In addition to knowledge, she understands the need for physical strength. With that in mind, she seeks out her older brother, William Albert, and greets him, once again surprising her family with her new behavior. Albert notes how unusual it is to see her awake so early, but Alicia then requests that he teach her swordsmanship so she can become stronger. This request catches not only Albert off guard, but also their other two brothers, who assume it must be one of Alicia's passing whims. However, Albert agrees, but on the condition that she first proves her physical strength. He tells her to do 100 push-ups and 50 sit-ups every day for a week. If she can manage that, he'll begin her sword training. Undeterred by the challenge, Alicia confidently accepts. Later in the library, she realizes that while she needs to work on her physical strength, she should also learn magic. The William family, being one of the 5 noble houses, excels in dark magic. Magic in this world consists of elements like darkness, light, water, wind, and fire. However, when she searches for magic books in the library, she finds none. Instead, she shifts her focus to learning about plants, medicinal herbs, and other elements beyond magic. Alicia then throws herself into physical training, managing to complete 50 push-ups on her first attempt, though it is a struggle. Still, she resolves to keep going so she can finally learn sword fighting and move one step closer to becoming the greatest villainess. The next morning, she eagerly resumes her training and is astonished to find the exercises much easier. She suspects that the nature of this new world may be responsible for her sudden improvement. In no time, Alicia is able to perform 500 sit-ups and 300 push-ups effortlessly. Her growth in strength and speed amazes her, and she begins to master both swords and magic at an impressive rate. However, she wonders why the original Alicia, the character from the game she once played, was never able to accomplish anything. The following day at breakfast, her family continues to be baffled by her sudden change in behavior. Concerned by how early she now wakes up and her newfound discipline, they question her. Alicia, however, brushes off their questions, simply telling them it's a secret. In the courtyard, Alicia prepares for her first day of sword training. As she walks, she notices a young man with fiery red hair, Lord Eric, whose family, the Hartsons, specializes in fire magic. She also meets Lord Finn, a young man with golden hair who wields light magic, and a representative of the Curtis family, a young man with green hair who specializes in forest magic. Finally, a young man with gray hair, Lord Gale, arrives, a user of wind magic. Among the group is the Crown Prince, Duke, the only son of the royal family, who controls water magic and exudes a different aura from the others. Realizing this is her opportunity to make an impression, Alicia approaches her older brother, and the other young men take notice of her. They are surprised by her beauty and poise, given her young age. Alicia greets them with perfect politeness, determined not to be seen as a poorly behaved child. The group is taken aback by how different she is from the rumors they had heard, but they soon learn that her unpredictable nature remains. Alicia, eager to start, asks her brother to start training her. However, her brother, ever skeptical, reminds her that she was only supposed to start if she completed the required exercises every day. Alicia, brimming with confidence, asserts that she did complete all the exercises. Her brother, still doubtful, is about to dismiss her claim when Alicia, visibly frustrated, grabs his sword, kicks a tree to make an apple fall, and slices it in half with impressive speed and precision. After seeing this, her brother, now convinced and stunned by her display, finally agrees. A year later, Alicia is still immersed in her sword training, practicing tirelessly. Her brother had told her that the key to mastering swordsmanship was endurance, being able to carry and swing the sword for hours. Despite the repetitive and dull routine, Alicia remains focused, driven by her goal to become the greatest villainess in history. She reflects that if it weren't for this ambition, she might have grown bored long ago. During this time, Prince Duke has been visiting frequently, and it seems he has developed feelings for Alicia. He then asks why she trains so hard in swordsmanship. She casually replies that she wants to have a strong grip, not revealing her true motive of becoming the strongest villainess. Later, Alicia's older brother gives the prince a book and asks him why he has been visiting so frequently these days. Initially thinking that he came for the books, he soon teases that the prince came for his sister. However, the prince himself didn't know the answer, and it became clear to everyone that he had developed admiration, if not affection, for Alicia. The scene transitions to a formal meeting between the noble families, including Alicia's. Lord Arnold, Alicia's father, speaks about the worsening conditions in the village of Lana, explaining how it has become nearly uninhabitable. The Duke expresses concern, noting that aid had been sent as quickly as possible, assuming it would be appreciated by the villagers. However, Arnold dismisses this, commenting that Lana is known as a village of criminals. The Duke then redirects the conversation, stating that their real priority should be the Golden Rose, a symbol of hope for the kingdom. The other noble families agree, pointing out that, as one of the 5 great noble houses, they should focus on larger concerns for the realm. Later, one of the lords mentions that his son, Finn, wishes for Lady Alicia to visit their estate. Arnold remarks that he has instructed her not to cause any trouble. The conversation shifts to how much Alicia has changed. The lords recall that she was once selfish and indifferent, but now she seems well-mannered and more mature. Arnold notes that about a year ago, she began spending most of her time in the library, and even he doesn't know what sparked this transformation. As the conversation continues, Finn arrives to thank Alicia for attending his tea party and mentions that King Albert will be joining them as a special guest. As the doors open, Alicia finds herself in the company of all the heirs of the 5 noble families. Their unexpected presence suggests that this gathering is no ordinary tea party. Finn soon expresses concern about the king's delayed arrival, but the others assure him that the king will be there soon. In the meantime, Alicia comes across a map and recalls from the game she used to play that her character, Alicia, was exiled to a foreign country by the end of the story. She wonders if this fate is inevitable, as the story seems to be progressing quickly. When the king finally arrives, Alicia is startled, unsure of what could have brought him there. The king unexpectedly asks her opinion about the current state of their kingdom. Although nervous, she offers a thoughtful response. Alicia points out that while the kingdom of Dorcas is powerful, it cannot be considered a good nation. She explains that most of the wealth is concentrated in the hands of the nobility, which has caused a growing disparity between the rich and poor. In places like Lana Village, many people are struggling to afford basic necessities, and this could easily lead to rebellion. The king agrees that they need to improve the economy and asks for her suggestions on how to achieve this. Alicia proposes that they could leverage the neighboring city of Calla and its gold mines. However, instead of seizing the mines, she suggests financing Calla's independence, which would allow them to avoid conflict while maintaining favorable trade relations. The king realizes that Alicia's plan is to profit indirectly by supporting Calla's independence and securing a future trade advantage. The king is impressed by her response and leaves, satisfied with the conversation. As he departs, his assistant notes that they have also located the Golden Rose, a symbol of great importance. Later, Alicia is seen happily indulging in a table full of sweets as Duke, who has been watching her, approaches. He gives her a belated birthday gift, a necklace with a small diamond. Alicia thanks him, promising to take care of it, but quietly wonders about the significance of such a valuable gift. In a separate scene, the king discusses the discovery of the Golden Rose with his advisors. He explains that when his only daughter was born, a rare rose bloomed, and it was believed she would become the saint, a figure destined to guide the kingdom toward peace. This legendary figure is always associated with a special rose, and now, with both a blue rose blooming for Duke and a golden rose connected to a mysterious girl, it seems that 2 individuals are destined to shape the kingdom's future. The king acknowledges that difficult times lie ahead, as legend foretells that the saint must unite with a member of the royal family to guide the kingdom's destiny. The scene then returns to Alicia in her palace. Reflecting on the events, she resolves that if Duke ever falls in love with the heroine and asks her to step aside, she won't. She is determined to forge her path as a villainous one who will be remembered throughout history. Alicia sat in the library, her eyes scanning a large map. Her gaze settled on the village of Lauren, located just beyond the forest near her family's estate. She had always spoken of the village's harsh streets, its impoverished people, and their struggles with hunger, details she had learned from books. But now she felt the need to see it with her own eyes. Realizing that her knowledge alone wasn't enough, she felt like she needed practical experience. However, she knew that if she asked her father for permission to visit the village, he would surely refuse. Determined, she decided to sneak out that night. As the household quieted down, Alicia pretended to be asleep before slipping out of bed. Under the cover of darkness, she quietly left the estate, disguised to avoid being recognized. The forest loomed ahead, dense and silent. The further she went, the darker it became, and she started feeling anxious. After what felt like hours, she finally found the magical barrier. With a deep breath, she crossed through it, entering the village. The air was thick with a foul smell. Not far ahead, she saw a man lying on the ground. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her, and a voice asked what she was doing there. Startled, Alicia turned to see a man standing behind her. He had a gentle demeanor, his presence oddly comforting despite the dark surroundings. He introduced himself as Will and invited her to his home. Apologizing for having nothing to offer her to drink, he asked what had brought someone like her to Lauren. Alicia hesitated but was surprised that Will had immediately recognized her as a noble. When she asked how he knew, he explained that it was in the way she moved, her scent, even the sound of her breathing. He shared that he used to work in the royal palace until he was exiled after a disagreement with a high-ranking official. As punishment, he had been blinded and sent to Lauren, where he had lived ever since. Alicia was taken aback by his story, unable to believe that such cruelty could be inflicted upon someone so wise. They continued talking, and Will shared his thoughts on history, telling her that knowledge is meant to be used to improve the future, not just to gain power. Impressed by his wisdom, Alicia confided in him that she aspired to become the greatest villain in history. As she prepared to leave, Alicia promised to visit him again. She had never met anyone like him and didn't want their newfound connection to end. 2 years passed, and Alicia continued visiting Will, all while diligently studying and practicing sword fighting. One day, her brothers, Albert and the others, asked if she wanted to join them on a trip to the city. She agreed, and as they wandered through the bustling streets, she remarked that she wanted to learn how to ride a horse. Albert quickly dismissed the idea, reminding her that it wasn't appropriate for girls to ride horses when carriages were safer. They continued exploring the city, eventually visiting a plant shop. The shopkeeper, Paul, greeted them warmly, and Alicia introduced herself as Henry's sister. Paul explained that his store primarily stocked medicinal herbs and tea. Alicia was surprised to learn that he was a noble, though of a lower rank. Paul explained that his family specialized in forest magic and had a long tradition of working with plants. As he showed her one of the herbs, Alicia quickly identified it as a rare plant known for its healing properties. Paul was impressed by her knowledge, but Alicia, playing the role of the villainess she had been perfecting, responded arrogantly. Paul, however, only smiled, which left Alicia puzzled. She had expected him to be offended, but his easygoing nature took her by surprise. Later, they met with Prince Duke, who became jealous that Alicia had gone on the outing without him. He insisted that next time she must go with him. During their conversation, Alicia mentioned wanting to test for sword training, but her brothers immediately shut down the idea, citing her age and gender. The prince, however, supported her, urging her brothers to let her try at least once. Still, they refused, dismissing her dreams of swordsmanship as unsuitable for a girl her age. Alicia, frustrated by her brother's refusal to let her participate in sword training, stormed out of the room after declaring she wouldn't return unless given a proper reason. As she walked through the palace halls, she overheard her brother discussing her stubbornness with their father. They spoke about how they couldn't keep saying no to her forever, knowing she would eventually act on her own. Her father mentioned that there was a reason they couldn't tell her the truth yet, but Alicia interrupted the conversation by bursting into the room. Shocked, her brother and father asked if she had been eavesdropping. Alicia demanded to know the real reason behind their decision. Her father gently explained that she was still young, and that he would tell her the truth once she entered the academy at 15. Though unsatisfied, Alicia reluctantly agreed. After she left, her father confided that Alicia's sword skills had grown beyond what a child should be capable of and that her abilities would soon be impossible to hide. Later, as Alicia lay in bed, she felt frustrated with her situation. Determined not to sulk, she decided to visit Will, the elderly man from Lauren Village, seeking his advice. Venturing into the forest, Alicia realized this was her first time visiting the village during the day. As she walked, she saw two people arguing violently, and the harsh realities of the village became clearer. She came upon a young child being harshly beaten and was about to intervene when Will appeared and pulled her away. He reminded her of his warning not to visit during the day and insisted they leave immediately. Upon returning home, Alicia remained silent, her mind troubled by the day's events. Will explained that while he had done what he could to help, the boy was still gravely ill, suffering from a fever and malnutrition. He revealed that the village lacked medical care, and many children, like the one before them, were orphaned and left to fend for themselves. Will urged Alicia not to blame herself. Alicia returned home, burdened by questions. She wondered why she had been born into a life of comfort and privilege while others suffered so much. She acknowledged that she didn't want to become a hero, but the sense of helplessness she felt was overwhelming. She resolved to become stronger, vowing to dedicate herself to studying and mastering magic. The next morning, Alicia visited Paul, the plant seller, and requested the jaya plant known for its healing properties. Paul, recognizing the urgency, gave it to her as a gift. That night, Alicia returned to Will's house with the plant. Will thanked her for her help, but Alicia confessed that she felt powerless, questioning her ability to become the greatest villainess if she couldn't handle important situations. She resolved to study harder and grow into someone who would be remembered by history. Determined to improve her magic, Alicia spent the next few days in the library, practicing spells. To her surprise, she discovered a hidden section filled with advanced magic books. She eagerly began studying, pushing herself to new limits. Although she successfully mastered telekinesis, she felt drained from the intense training, her body exhausted from the magical exertion. One day, her father came to inform her that the king had arrived along with his son, Duke. The king wished to hear her story again, and Alicia, though puzzled by the request, greeted him. During their conversation, the king asked her if she loved the kingdom. Alicia boldly voiced her disdain for the preferential treatment of nobles, criticizing the hierarchical system that allowed the least competent individuals to hold the highest positions. She argued that magical power and political authority were separate things, and that many talented people had been overlooked because of the kingdom's rigid structure. Her candid words angered the nobles present, but the king appeared intrigued. He asked if Alicia was prepared to lose her status by voicing such opinions. Alicia replied that she didn't mind, as she considered her noble birth to be a mere stroke of luck. Her desire was to secure her place based on merit, not privilege. After the meeting, Alicia left, exhausted from the intense exchange. As she walked, she collapsed, weakened by a sudden fever. Duke rushed to her side, carrying her to her room. When she awoke, still feverish, Duke asked if she had taken the medicine prepared for her. Without responding, Alicia remained quiet, and Duke, in a surprising move, drank the medicine and transferred it to her mouth. The next day, Alicia wakes up to realize her fever has passed. As she recalls how Duke kissed her, she becomes flustered but brushes it off, thinking he only did it to save her life. Wanting to meet the heroine, Alicia assumes she must have already enrolled in the academy, so she decides to sneak onto the campus. However, she quickly gets lost and considers asking for directions, but knows she'll be thrown out since she's not supposed to be there. Just then, a girl suddenly appears behind her, asking if she's lost. She introduces herself as Liz Cather. Alicia finds the name familiar, and when Liz mentions that she's a commoner whose family owns a bakery, Alicia realizes she's the heroine. Liz kindly asks where Alicia is headed, and when Alicia says she's looking for the school building, Liz offers to guide her. As they walk, Alicia notes that Liz entered the school on a scholarship, but the nobles never treat her well due to her commoner status. Although Alicia knows she's no match for Liz now, she's determined to become her equal. Suddenly, Liz's friends call for her, and she mentions that she found someone who was lost. But when she looks around, Alicia has already disappeared. We then see Alicia hiding behind the school building, thinking about how she now owes Liz for leading her to the right place. She chastises herself, believing she's failed as a villainess. Just then, she notices Duke approaching and overhears Liz telling him about what happened. Other girls nearby remark on how perfect Duke and Liz look together, and Alicia silently observes that if the story continues as it did in the game, they'll end up together. When classes begin, Alicia sneaks into the school building and marvels at the countless books on magic. She comes across a question about politics written on a blackboard and is intrigued. Meanwhile, in a nearby classroom, students gossip about a girl answering the weekly question, stunned by how difficult it is. They soon realize they're talking about Alicia. We then see her writing her answer on the board, suggesting that the kingdom should pretend to aid a poor country in order to exploit it. She knows her response sounds wicked, but as she finishes, she notices Albert watching her. He quickly scolds her for sneaking into the campus. Later, Alicia overhears her father, Arnold, speaking with a noble named Joan. They're discussing a divergent, warning that they need to be cautious of a girl with extraordinary abilities. Alicia accidentally makes her presence known, and Joan immediately suggests erasing her memory. But Alicia promises not to reveal that Liz is the divergent, having already figured it out since Liz was seen as dangerous in the game. She assures them Liz seems like a good person, and when Joan asks if she's met her, Alicia explains it's just a gut feeling. The next day, Alicia practices a spell that cleans dirty objects and realizes she can already perform level 10 dark magic. She aspires to learn a level 25 spell that will allow her to purify Lana's drinking water, but she knows she has a long way to go. Albert interrupts her practice to inform her that she has visitors, and to her surprise, Liz is among them. Liz recalls helping Alicia when she got lost on campus and also reminds Albert that he helped her during the entrance ceremony, remarking that it must be fate bringing them together. Alicia notices Albert seems to be interested in Liz, while Duke invites Alicia to sit next to him. The group begins discussing their class's plans for the upcoming school fair, where outsiders will attend, and they ask Alicia for suggestions. She knows this event will bring Duke and Liz closer, and as the villainess, she feels compelled to interfere but isn't sure how. She mentions that Liz can use all magical elements, suggesting that Liz showcase her magic in a performance. Alicia assumes Liz will hate the idea since she dislikes showing off, but to her surprise, Liz loves it. The boys agree, thinking everyone will enjoy watching Liz's magical display. Liz invites Alicia to join her on stage, but Alicia quickly refuses, saying she doesn't want to perform with her. She's convinced they can't be friends because they'll never get along. However, Liz believes they could become friends if they keep spending time together, and Albert encourages Alicia to give it a try. So they spend the rest of the day together, chatting about random topics. However, Alicia finds Liz dull since she keeps asking generic questions. To break the monotony, Alicia uses magic to grab a flower vase and hands it to Liz, mentioning that the marguerite daisies inside suit her because they symbolize sincerity and trust. The boys are shocked, wondering how Alicia can already use magic at just 10 years old, suspecting she might be a divergent. Albert then orders Alicia to return to her room, leaving her confused as she thought Liz was the divergent. Liz thanks Alicia for the flowers, saying daisies are her favorite. Later, Alicia visits William Tell and tells him she can now use beginner-level magic. William explains that most people can only use magic after turning 13. He mentions someone like her who had extraordinary magical talent but lost his powers after attempting a level 100 spell, causing his mana to spiral out of control. He advises Alicia not to rush her magic training. Just then, a boy named Gil wakes up, and William introduces him to Alicia, explaining that she was the one who prepared medicine for him. When Alicia greets Gil, he ignores her, and William explains that Gil's past has led him to avoid people. Alicia thinks about how Liz would likely use kind words to win over someone like Gil, and she wishes she could be as compassionate. Instead, she bluntly tells him he's better off dead if he refuses to talk to people while he's alive. Gil retorts that she could never understand his feelings, and Alicia admits they come from different worlds, but insists she must take responsibility for giving him the medicine. She then threatens to kill him if he doesn't want to live, using dark magic to make her point. Gil throws a pillow at her, which she promptly cleans with her spell. Gil tells her he won't go down without a fight, and Alicia promises to keep him alive as long as he clings to that determination. She even offers to help him leave the village if he desires. When he asks why she's helping him, she reveals that she sees him as a valuable asset due to his hidden potential. She declares herself a villainess, but when Jill asks William what she means, William just laughs, calling her strange but ultimately kind-hearted. Gil thanks Alicia for the medicine and promises to serve her in return. Meanwhile, the heads of the 5 great noble families meet, and Arnold wonders if Alicia might be the true saint. However, the king believes it's Liz due to her ability to use all the magical elements despite being a commoner. He acknowledges Liz's talent but orders John and Arnold to keep an eye on Alicia, fearing she could lose control of her mana. Later, Albert informs Alicia that Liz's mana went out of control while practicing for the performance. Alicia wonders if Liz can still use magic, and Albert explains that the teachers managed to bring her mana back under control. He then asks if Alicia had foreseen this happening, but she denies it, saying she just wants to beat Liz in a fair competition. As Alicia uses her magic to organize some books, John and Arnold watch, impressed by her abilities. They tell her that the king has decided to make an exception for her, allowing her to enroll in the Magic Academy when she turns 13. 3 years later, Alicia meets the king, and John proudly tells him that she's made incredible progress. Alicia reveals that she can now cast level 80 spells, exceeding the king's expectations. He grants her permission to attend the Magic Academy but asks her for a favor. He wants Alicia to keep an eye on Liz. Alicia was taken aback by the king's request. He asked if she knew of the legend of the saint, and she quickly recounted how it tells of a girl loved by the gods who would join the royal family to bring prosperity to the kingdom. The monarch was impressed with how knowledgeable Alicia was. She admitted she had read about it and internally noted that it was also part of the game. The king then stated that they believed Liz was the saint and asked for Alicia's opinion, based on her interactions with Liz. Alicia bluntly replied that the girl lived in her own world far removed from reality. The king agreed and ordered Joan to give her an essay Liz had written about Rona village. Alicia reviewed it, internally mocking it as wild and chaotic rambling. The king, wanting Liz to become more capable of making sound decisions, asked Alicia to guide her into becoming a respectable saint. Alicia felt this conflicted with her own goals. Her father objected to the idea, but the king explained that Liz had garnered so much love and admiration that many people almost worshipped her. No one at the academy dared speak against her, and those who did were shunned by her fanatical supporters. This piqued Alicia's interest. Her father suggested she refuse the task, warning that she'd end up playing the role of the villain, but this only made Alicia more eager to accept. That night, Alicia went to visit Will to inform him of the situation. She explained that she hadn't agreed to the king's request for free and had asked to take Gil with her to the academy. She explained Gil's talent and that it shouldn't be wasted in the village. Her father had fainted upon learning she'd been visiting the village for years. Alicia told Gil he would be attending the academy as her servant and encouraged him to seize the opportunity. Alicia also wanted Will to return to the castle, but he was content with his life there. As Alicia made her way back home, a girl suddenly grabbed her leg just before she reached the barrier. Alicia couldn't ignore the severely injured girl and rushed her to the village center to treat her. However, the water there was dirty, causing a stir among the villagers. Reluctantly, Alicia used magic to purify the water so she could start treating the girl. Gil and Will soon joined her, and the villagers were confused by a noblewoman being in their midst. Alicia erected a barrier to keep the onlookers at bay, giving her space to inspect the girl's injuries, severe burns, some of which were infected. Gil suspected she was a survivor of a recent house fire. Alicia felt out of her depth and doubted she could save the girl. Will informed her that the girl was close to death and asked if the greatest villainess would accept such a defeat. Reflecting on this, Alicia remembered the type of villainess she aspired to be: ambitious, strong, composed, and not one for empty words. She realized a true villainess wouldn't give up so easily. Although her healing spells weren't enough to treat the injuries, she channeled an immense amount of magic into one and healed the girl by brute force. However, one of the girl's legs was too damaged, so Alicia used her sword to amputate it. The girl woke up as her condition stabilized, devastated by the loss of her leg. Alicia calmly explained that she would have died if it hadn't been removed. She praised the girl for surviving and stopped her from offering thanks, revealing that she didn't do things out of kindness and expected to be repaid. When asked, the girl introduced herself as Rebecca. Alicia told her she would be her personal informant from now on. Alicia then dissolved the barrier, presenting Rebecca to the villagers as a miracle, having been saved from the brink of death. She declared that Rebecca would be the one to lead the village moving forward. The peasant girl was puzzled by Alicia's declaration, so Alicia explained her intention clearly. She wanted the girl to become the voice of the villagers, their temporary savior. This would give Alicia the time she needed to manipulate events behind the scenes and use the saint for her own goals. To bring Liz's fairy tale into reality, Alicia knew she had to learn more about Lena and carefully orchestrate the changes. However, the villagers themselves would be the ones to drive these changes, while Alicia would be the mastermind. Will admitted that he had no interest in leading the village himself. Instead, he wanted to witness the positive transformations that Alicia had promised. He knew his blindness made it impossible for him to take charge. Realizing that she had been exposed, Alicia prepared to leave with Gil. Before departing, she handed Will a potion that would allow him to pass through the magical barrier. When Gil stepped out of the village, he was awestruck by the beauty of the world outside, even questioning whether he had done something wrong to deserve being denied such freedom. Alicia quickly reassured him that he had done nothing wrong and urged him to carry himself with pride. Gil adapted to his new role and accompanied Alicia to the academy. Alicia said her goodbyes to her father, who before she left finally admitted that the reason he didn't want her to take the swordsmanship test was because she was too extraordinary. She took it as a compliment. Once they arrived at the academy, Alicia braced herself to confront Liz. Word had already spread about her special exception status and her orphan commoner servant, Gil. Some girls, influenced by Liz, tried to welcome Alicia, but she coldly rejected them, swatting away the hand of one girl who touched her hair, calling her rude. The girls quickly informed Liz, who soon arrived with her entourage. In an attempt to defuse the situation, Liz gently asked Alicia to apologize, but Alicia refused and walked away. Gil, concerned, asked if it was wise to defy the saint in front of everyone. Alicia, however, was thrilled, declaring it the perfect introduction for Villainess. Gil could already tell that this school experience was going to be chaotic. Just then, Alicia disappeared. It was the work of the Duke who had summoned her. He confronted her, demanding to know why she had refused the king's request. Alicia, flustered by his closeness, recalled that by this point in the game, the Duke was already in love with the heroine. She admitted that she accepted the task because it gave her free rein to speak to Liz in any manner she wished, backed by the king's authority. The Duke noticed she still wore the diamond he had given her and expressed his relief. Alicia quickly reminded him of proper etiquette and ran off, blushing. Later, she rejoined Gil, and they found Liz hosting a tea party in the garden. Sensing an opportunity, Alicia seized the moment to criticize Liz's essay, which argued that all people should be treated equally regardless of class. Alicia dramatically tossed the essay to the ground, pointing out that Liz was the embodiment of inequality, having been born with numerous advantages that allowed her to rise to the top despite her commoner origins. Alicia also fiercely criticized Liz's suggestion to remove the magical barrier surrounding Roanoke Village, delivering a harsh but calculated intellectual victory. Liz's fans were left awestruck by Alicia's powerful display. The scene then shifts to Alicia walking confidently down the school corridor, pleased with the tension she'd stirred up. The usual calm atmosphere had been disrupted, and she noticed the annoyed, resentful glares from other students, clearly displeased with her recent actions. Many felt she had crossed the line by taking advantage of Liz's kindness, a quality they all seemed to respect. Alicia, however, remained unfazed. She interpreted their reactions as proof that her influence was growing, just as she'd intended. Meanwhile, Gil, walking beside her, struggled to understand her motives. He was frustrated that people admired Liz, even though, in his view, she mostly spent time discussing her ideals rather than putting them into action. He found it baffling that people saw her as a hero when her actual achievements were so few. Alicia, observing Liz and the way others interacted with her, realized it would take more time than she expected to steer Liz toward a more resolute, action-oriented approach. But Alicia was both patient and determined, willing to invest as much time as needed, knowing that her own reputation as a villain would only strengthen in the process. Later that evening, she told Gil they'd be heading to Rona village. Upon arrival, they met Rebecca, who shared her understanding of the villagers' sentiments. Most of the villagers, she said, felt trapped and openly dissatisfied with their lives. Some even hinted that if they had the chance to leave, they'd consider reckless acts like looting, driven by frustration and desperation. Alicia felt uneasy at this. Dealing with people who admitted they'd turn to dangerous actions if freed was unsettling. Noticing her discomfort, Rebecca reassured her, reminding Alicia that her noble status meant her safety was prioritized. This reminder brought Alicia a sense of satisfaction. Her position granted her a level of authority and protection that aligned well with her aim of being a true villain. Rebecca also mentioned that some villagers had started to hope for change after seeing Alicia survive a seemingly fatal encounter. Determined to help shift their mindsets, Alicia noted that for now, none saw her as their savior. She then shared that Liz's proposal had brought some attention to the village, though it wasn't yet advanced enough to act on. She cautioned everyone to be patient, reminding them that real change took time. Rebecca then asked if Alicia, as a noble, could supply seeds from outside, so the villagers could start growing their own crops and become self-sufficient. Alicia, however, refused to offer freebies, though she was intrigued by how the village dynamics might shift if they became more independent. Gil suggested that Rebecca could offer something in return, and Rebecca agreed to prepare a report on how introducing crops could impact the village. The next day, Alicia worked on a proposal for Rona, and her brother Harry joined her. She noticed he hadn't spent much time with Alan lately. Harry admitted he was giving his friend some space, as Alan had become somewhat of a fan of Alicia since they started at the academy. Harry confessed that he too had once been charmed by her, but Alicia wasn't interested in hearing about people's admiration for the heroine. He then shared that his opinion of Alicia had shifted after she was accused of picking a fight with Liz, even though he agreed with Alicia's criticism of Liz's essay. Since then, he hadn't felt like hanging out with Alan. Alicia, slightly confused, wondered why he was telling her this. Harry explained he just wanted to share his thoughts before asking her about her plans. Alicia kept her intentions vague, though Harry suspected he'd figure them out eventually. He then mentioned that the king had invited her to a tea party where Liz would also be in attendance. The siblings soon arrived at the palace, where Harry advises his sister not to say anything unnecessary. Alicia assures him she'll be on her best behavior, knowing this isn't just any tea party. It is then revealed that it is a pivotal event from the game known as the Saint Test, where players earn points by making the right choices. However, she doesn't remember the Villainess character attending this event in the original game, leading her to suspect it's also a test of her role as Liz's watcher. When they enter, they find everyone else already present. Liz is cheerful upon seeing them, but Alicia bluntly remarks that it's unfortunate they have to be in each other's company, making it clear they aren't friends. Her words annoy the other boys, prompting Gale to advise Finn not to talk to her, and Finn to make a snide comment about her unusual relationships. The room falls silent when the king enters, and he encourages everyone to relax, noting this is meant to be an informal gathering to thank them for supporting Duke, and that he wants them all to feel at home. Alicia, however, finds this to be the least relaxing tea party imaginable. She's impressed by Liz's confidence in acting so casually with the king. Alicia recalls that in the game, scoring high on the Saint Test was necessary to unlock the true ending, though she always found it difficult. She observes that everything is following the game's storyline, except for her unexpected presence and Harry's altered behavior, as he was always by his twin's side in the game. Her other brothers still dislike her. Gale and Eric hide their resentment, while Finn and Curtis remain neutral. But the one behaving most differently is Prince Duke. In the game, he only ever smiled at the heroine, but now he's smiling at Alicia, making her blush. Her attention returns to the present when the king brings up her accurate prediction of Duran's economic downfall from 3 years ago. Liz, surprised by this, listens as Alicia criticizes her naivety, pointing out that it's foolish to ally with a bankrupt nation out of mere goodwill. Liz's admirers don't appreciate Alicia's critique and press her for a suggestion. Alicia proposes making Duran a vassal state to reinforce their own defenses against Lael and prevent rivals from gaining influence, which would be risky. Gale reluctantly agrees, having already heard concerns from his father about their border with Laval. Alicia believes it's unwise to endanger their own safety, just to aid another nation. This prompts Liz to think harder, and she suggests that Duran, known for its potatoes, could boost its economy by improving and exporting them. Her supporters love the idea, and the king, pleased with Alicia's guidance as Liz's watcher, expresses pride in having such bright youth among his subjects. Alicia takes this as confirmation that she's passed the test. After the king leaves, the boys gather around Liz, giving Alicia a chance to slip away. As she wanders down the corridor searching for the exit, she notices the royal family portraits on the wall and realizes one picture is missing. While examining a portrait, Duke approaches her, explaining it's of his father and grandfather, and mentions his father had an older brother. Alicia doesn't ask further questions, and Duke, noticing she's lost, kindly shows her the way out. She's still puzzled by his constant smiles toward her. A few days later, as Alicia practices, Henry approaches Gil and tricks him into admitting he's from Rona, which annoys Gil. Henry, having noticed Gil's fear of everyone except Alicia, advises him to better conceal his emotions or risk being taken advantage of. Henry believes his sister needs a sharp ally to help her avoid further conflicts with Liz. Alicia interjects, clarifying she doesn't truly hate Liz and explaining her role as Liz's watcher. She shares her ambition of becoming the ultimate villainess, enjoying a challenge of standing against someone as popular as Liz. Hearing this, Henry bursts into laughter, and Jill thinks his laughter is a natural reaction. Henry, still laughing, remarks that Liz makes a fitting rival for Alicia, given that in a fictional world, Liz would be the protagonist. He sees Liz as special, someone who can make her words inspiring. Jill wonders if Liz might be using magic to charm people, but Alicia dismisses the idea as unlikely. Henry confirms that no magic could influence people over such a long period, though Alicia notes she still needs to learn the ancient language to fully understand magic. As they continue walking through a quiet area, they are suddenly ambushed by a group of men. Alicia regains consciousness tied up in a storage shed with her magic restricted, realizing this is part of the original game storyline. Her thoughts are interrupted as her captors bring in a severely beaten Gil, ending the episode on a tense note. Alicia then demands the criminals release the boy if they value their lives. She tries to use her magic to escape, but a collar around her neck suppresses her powers. The criminals mock her, and one of them even knocks her down, warning her to stay silent. Gil, however, urges her to escape, mentioning that they're on the north side of the school. But when one of the criminals suggests killing him since he seems worthless, Alicia's anger flares. She kicks the man who struck her, glares at the others, and calls them trash, urging Gil to run with her. However, he reveals his leg is broken. The man she kicked tries to get up, but their leader scolds him for being bested by a girl without magic. Alicia kicks him again, and when another man lunges at her with a knife, she grabs a nearby weapon and, using the blunt side, knocks out two of her kidnappers. Gil watches in awe as she refuses to compromise her principles, even in danger. The criminal's leader then draws his sword and attacks her, but Alicia shatters his weapon, forcing him to retreat. She trips him with a stick, but before she can deliver a final blow, Liz stops her, shocked by Alicia's actions. Gil warns Liz that she's leaving Alicia vulnerable, but Liz insists Alicia is the aggressor. The criminal, noticing Liz's knave stance, tries to attack Alicia again. Just in time, Duke arrives, blocking the attack and knocking the man out. Soldiers soon arrive and arrest the criminals, and the prince, who arrives late, apologizes and helps free Gil, promising him medical treatment. Exhausted, Alicia collapses, relieved the ordeal is over. Duke notices her injuries and covers her with his jacket. Her brother Albert arrives, grateful to see her safe. Liz interrupts, accusing Alicia of attacking a defenseless man. Shocked by Liz's accusations, Alicia listens as Gil defends her, explaining she was protecting him. Influenced by Liz's idealistic view, Albert suggests Alicia should have tried reasoning with the kidnappers instead of fighting. Alicia argues that such an attitude doesn't suit a knight, as knights are sworn to protect those they care about. Liz counters with a naive remark that violence only breeds hatred, but Alicia stands firm, saying she'd rather defend herself than wait helplessly. Duke makes it clear he didn't come to save Liz. He's firmly on Alicia's side, pointing out that everyone would have been in danger if she hadn't fought back. Curtis steps in, urging everyone to tend to the wounded, healing Alicia along the way. Alicia tries to thank him, but her speech slurs because she lost a tooth during the scuffle, which infuriates Duke. Liz offers to heal Alicia, but Duke declines, saying he's already arranged for her treatment. Alicia firmly states she'd defend herself again if necessary. Liz's friends reassure her that Alicia will one day understand her perspective, but Duke, tired of the conversation, picks Alicia up as she protests, not wanting to be treated like a child. Duke holds her close and gently asks her not to put herself in such danger again, confessing that his heart sank when he learned she was in trouble. Alicia is taken aback, uncertain of Duke's feelings, especially since he's expected to be with Liz. She eventually falls unconscious, waking later to see Duke resting nearby. He hands back her necklace, retrieved from one of her kidnappers, and nearly kisses her, until Gil walks in, prompting her to push Duke away. Henry arrives and casually tells Duke that he has no objection if he's interested in Alicia, as long as it makes her happy. They move to another room where Gil thanks Alicia and, holding onto her lost tooth as a memento, vows to become stronger to protect her. Alicia then asks who orchestrated the incident, and Henry reveals it was Neil from the Johnson family, a fan of Liz who was angry with Alicia for supposedly disrespecting her at a tea party. Alicia respects Neil's tenacity, but is disappointed to hear Duke has already dealt with him. Duke suspects the king may have allowed the incident to unfold as a training opportunity for Liz, guiding her to Alicia's location. Gil is troubled at the thought of risking lives for the Saint's development, but Alicia reminds him of the Saint's duty to protect the kingdom. She also reflects on the prince's expected engagement to Liz, but Duke interjects, asserting his desire to choose his own path. Initially frustrated by the prince's closeness to Alicia, Gil is reassured when Duke expresses his genuine feelings for her, promising that his status means nothing in comparison. Both men are united in their determination to protect Alicia, though she herself is torn about her feelings. Later, Alicia heads to the library to train in magic, but she struggles to progress beyond level 80. Gil suggests she pace herself, but Alicia is determined to push through, aiming to become a legendary villainess in her own right. Gil jokingly tells her she could settle for being the prince's wife, but Alicia insists on making a name for herself beyond being someone's partner. Their conversation is interrupted by her father, who warns her of the dangers of being Liz's protector. Alicia refuses to back down, and her father, acknowledging her potential, sets a condition. If she can reach level 90, she can keep her role. Confident and defiant, Alicia accepts, preparing to isolate herself for rigorous training. A month had passed since Alicia secluded herself in her chambers, leaving Gil to stand outside her door daily, hoping she might emerge. One morning, he noticed a maid preparing to deliver Alicia's meal. Before pushing the cart into the magical barrier that surrounded Alicia's room, the maid discreetly poured a potion over it, allowing it to pass through. Watching her work, Gil realized he couldn't linger in sentimentality and decided to head to the dining hall for breakfast. As Gil sat down to eat, the other servants noticed he was eating the same meal as them. One of them hesitated before reminding him that, as Alicia's aide, he was supposed to eat whenever she ate. Gil brushed this off, explaining that he wanted to study in the library after breakfast. He even remarked on how luxurious their food seemed. The servants were puzzled, as the food was relatively simple, but their hearts softened when Gil admitted that he had grown up poor. Touched by his humility, several servants shared portions of their meals with him. Looking at his now overflowing plate, Gil couldn't help but feel fortunate, a sentiment that strengthened his resolve to live up to Alicia's expectations. With this determination, he quickly finished his meal and hurried to the library. While engrossed in his studies, Gil was interrupted by Alicia's father. The man handed him a potion, explaining it would allow Gil to pass through the barrier around Lena village freely. Initially, Gil thought this meant he was being sent away, but Alicia's father clarified it was a gesture of gratitude. He revealed that he had previously given Alicia the same privilege and now wanted to extend it to Gil. Alicia's father acknowledged Gil's unique role in his daughter's life, emphasizing that Alicia, who rarely socialized, had befriended no one else. He hoped Gil would continue to be her friend. This candid admission surprised Gil, as he had assumed the man to be cold and strict, especially given his role in Alicia's seclusion. Alicia's father admitted that his wife had also scolded him for forcing Alicia into isolation, explaining that his intention was to push her to abandon her aspirations of becoming the Saint's Watcher. Instead, his ultimatum had only strengthened her resolve. He confessed that he originally wanted Alicia to return to the academy when the time was right, as he feared her involvement with Liz. Alicia's father mentioned that he had noticed changes in Albert ever since the young man started working with Liz, to the point where he wasn't sure he wanted Albert to succeed him. Gil encouraged him to have more faith in Alicia, describing her as strong and principled. The father then revealed that the king had apologized for the earlier incident involving Alicia and had given him permission to withdraw her from her role as Watcher. However, the king privately hoped Alicia would continue in her duties. Gil, unsure about Liz's ability to save the kingdom, voiced his concerns, but Alicia's father remained non-committal, stating that the idea of saving the kingdom was vague. He acknowledged, however, that Liz's talents could serve the kingdom in numerous ways after her graduation, as all individuals with extraordinary abilities were expected to serve the realm. This was a fate he wished to spare Alicia. Gil noted that Alicia's perspective differed from the kingdom's prevailing views. She disapproved of the magical supremacy system and saw most people around her as limited by their lack of critical thinking. This revelation gave Alicia's father a new understanding of why his daughter trusted Gil so deeply. Meanwhile, in Lena village, Rebecca and several villagers were harvesting potatoes. The seeds had been provided by Alicia, and Rebecca was impressed by the harvest quality. She commented on Alicia's knowledge of which variant would grow best in their soil, noting that such expertise wasn't typical for nobles. Will, another villager, speculated that Alicia must have learned this on her own. Their conversation was interrupted when a local troublemaker attempted to steal a sack of potatoes. Nate, a village resident, quickly intervened with a powerful punch that dissuaded the thief and retrieved the stolen goods. Rebecca thanked Nate, but he chastised her for rushing after thieves with her injured leg. He also voiced his doubts about Alicia's intentions, suggesting this was a fleeting project for a spoiled noble who would soon lose interest. Rebecca, however, defended Alicia, listing the tangible benefits her involvement had already brought to the village. Elsewhere, the king summoned Duke to inquire about his interest in Lena Village. Duke acknowledged that Alicia's proposal had sparked his involvement. Liz's earlier essay had won the kingdom's sympathy for the village, and Alicia's practical proposals had expanded upon the saint's ideas. Together, they had created a compelling case for improving conditions in the village. The king, impressed that someone with a reputation like Alicia's could devise such innovative proposals, decides to delegate the reform of Lena Village to Duke. With the kingdom burdened by other pressing matters, he believes Duke is best suited to lead the project. 6 months later, Alicia remains in seclusion. Henry joins Gil outside her shed, where bursts of her power occasionally erupt from within. Henry remarks on her extraordinary talent, admitting she's the most gifted among her siblings. However, he struggles to understand why she continues to push herself so hard. Gil explains that Alicia is training to match Liz's level so she can confront the saint with confidence. Inspired by her determination, Gil also works tirelessly to be worthy of standing by her side when the time comes. Later, Henry returns to the academy and informs the prince that Alicia has yet to leave her seclusion. His announcement sparks murmurs among the students, who assume he's worried because he dislikes her. Once alone with the prince, Henry vents his frustration, lamenting how little people know about Alicia yet freely spread baseless rumors. Duke commends him for standing up for his sister, confessing that if the students had said anything more, he might have had them expelled. Curtis interjects, begging the prince not to say such intimidating things, arguing that their school life should remain harmonious. However, Duke dismisses this, asserting that reckless gossip from ignorant students is what disrupts the peace. Henry remains baffled by the persistence of these false rumors, despite his efforts to dispel them. Curtis mentions a new rumor that Alicia had secretly visited the prince at night. Duke's mood darkens at this, and it worsens further when Liz invites him to a tea party to lighten his spirits. He declines curtly, making it clear he has no interest, and leaves. The other students attempt to reassure Liz, claiming the prince will smile again eventually. Albert, however, blames Alicia for the change in the prince's demeanor. Meanwhile, Curtis and Finn note how strange it is that girls who previously disliked Liz have suddenly become her admirers. They speculate that things will become far more interesting when Alicia returns to school. In private, the prince tasks Mel with investigating Liz's mysterious ability to make others adore her. He suspects there's a specific mechanism behind her influence. He also reveals that his father has granted him full authority over the Lena Village reforms. When Mel offers to check on Alicia, he declines, saying he doesn't want anyone but himself to understand her better. 2 years pass, and Alicia remains in the shed. Gil, now deeply engrossed in his studies, is joined one day by Alicia's father. Surprised, Gil confesses he didn't expect her training to take so long, as he believed she would solve her challenges swiftly. The family head explains that Alicia chose to stay in seclusion even after turning 15 because she had reached the most critical part of her training. Their conversation is interrupted by a maid who informs Gil that Alicia has finally completed her training. Without hesitation, he rushes to the shed and flings open the door. He is struck by her transformation. Alicia has grown more stunning than he ever imagined. Smiling softly, she comments on how much taller he's become, admitting she almost didn't recognize him. She notices his flustered expression and approaches him, concerned. He confesses that he's unsure of what to say since so much time has passed. She admits she feels the same, but insists they visit Lena Village first. Gil is taken aback by this, believing they should go to her family's mansion first since everyone has been worried about her. However, she's eager to visit the village because she's finally mastered the spell she's been working on. As the Villainess crosses the village barrier for the first time in 2 years, she's astonished by the pristine, peaceful state of the place, almost doubting it's the same village. Gil explains that the villagers under Rebecca's leadership have worked together to improve it. Their conversation is interrupted by Nate, and Gil introduces him as the village's guard. Alicia is surprised that Nate knows about her, and he explains that Rebecca filled him in. Although he acknowledges her contributions to the village's transformation, he remains wary of her sudden return after such a long absence, suspecting ulterior motives. Gil reminds Nate of the reasons behind her absence, but Alicia admits she would have been more concerned if he trusted her without question. To ease his doubts, she proposes a challenge, asking him to draw his sword so they can test their skills and understand each other better. Nate refuses, dismissing her as a weak-looking girl, but she taunts him, suggesting they compete in another way if he lacks confidence. Her teasing triggers Nate, and he reluctantly agrees, warning that he won't hold back if she gets hurt. As the two duel, a crowd gathers, and the commotion attracts Rebecca and Will. They arrive just in time to see Alicia knock Nate down. The crowd tries to claim she cheated by using magic, but the head guard silences them, admitting she won fairly and without magic. Alicia humbly credits her noble upbringing for her advantage, acknowledging that things might have been different if Nate had access to similar training. She suggests he use her as a sparring partner to improve his skills, hinting that she knows how much he cares for Rebecca. Will, unfazed by Alicia's boldness, greets her warmly, and she joyfully embraces the old man. She proudly announces that she's achieved level 91 magic, impressing him. She then casts a spell, chanting in the ancient language of Duries, enveloping herself and Will in its magic. The villagers grow anxious, fearing for him, but Alicia reveals the spell transferred one of her eyes to him, allowing him to see again. Will is overwhelmed by the sight of the village and its people for the first time in years. Though he never asked for such a gift, Alicia explains that she wanted to give him the ability to see again. Overcome with emotion, he calls her an extraordinary villainess. Afterward, Alicia and Gil leave the village. She admits her missing eye feels odd when Jill asks, and he remarks that her father will likely be worried. She agrees, anticipating his overprotectiveness, but when her father sees her missing eye, he faints from shock. Upon learning what she's done, he faints again. Alicia reassures him it was her choice, and that she plans to live life on her own terms. Her father, though still concerned, congratulates her on surpassing level 90 and supports her decision to remain Liz's watcher as promised. Later, she retreats to her room where Gil awaits her. Alicia receives a handmade black eye patch, which she loves and plans to match with an outfit. She's eager to debut her new look upon returning to the academy. When the day arrives, the students are disheartened by her presence, the weight of her return evident in the way everyone's eyes are on her. One of Liz's most devoted fans, Jane, confronts her with hostile words. Alicia, however, handles the situation with ease, intellectually defeating Jane with a few biting insults. Jane rushes to Liz, complaining about the bullying, and Liz, pleased to see her, asks for Alicia's side of the story. Alicia confirms Jane's claims but adds that she's learned from the events of 2 years ago. The saint reveals that she regrets her actions, admitting that she had jumped to conclusions and sided with the captor simply because he was at a disadvantage. Liz, confident in her perspective, explains that things have always gone well for her, and she's sure everything will work out in the end. She hopes that Alicia can believe in her so they can all be saved together. The other students eagerly await a happy resolution. Alicia steps forward, acknowledging Liz's good fortune so far, but cautioning that she can't be certain things will always go her way. She pulls on Liz's bowtie, leaning close to her ear, and whispers that she knows Liz hates her. Alicia points out how Liz restricted her while leaving her kidnapper free, knowing full well she could have stopped them both. Alicia believes there was malice behind Liz's actions. Liz denies this, insisting it's impossible for her to harbor such feelings. The others, noticing Liz's distress, become worried. Alicia reassures her that she would prefer Liz to take being good seriously, but she should also take concrete actions toward her goals instead of waiting for things to fall into place. Alicia makes it clear that she doesn't want Liz to save her and prefers to live life on her own terms, even if it means being hated in the end. Meanwhile, Duke hears from Mel about Alicia's return and the sacrifices she has made. School officially starts and Alicia sits for an exam with Gil. Professor John Marks tests them and is impressed by their results, particularly by Gil's high level of academic achievement despite his young age. He's further stunned to learn that Gil is self-taught. The teacher laments that, as a commoner, Gil lacks the opportunities he deserves, but assures them that his door is always open if they need guidance for advanced classes. After the meeting, Alicia remarks on how commoners like Gil, who can't use magic, are often denied educational or career opportunities. She argues that many talented commoners would excel if given the chance. The current aristocratic system, she believes, is inefficient because it overlooks the best people. Her thoughts are interrupted when Duke enters, looking dejected. When he asks about her eye patch, she swats his hand away, irritated by his greeting after 2 years of absence. He expresses his concern about her giving her eye to someone else and explains how difficult it's been watching over her all these years. Alicia, feeling uncomfortable, responds coldly, telling him he's bothering her, and that she never asked him to watch over her. Duke, taken aback, excuses himself, apologizing before leaving. Alicia feels conflicted, realizing that her words weren't what she truly wanted to say. Gil, noticing her unease, points out that her actions were out of character and rather lame if this was her idea of being a villainess. Alicia reflects on the kindness Duke has shown her over the years and feels guilty for the way she treated him. She wonders why things between them never seemed to go right. When the bell rang to signal the start of class, Alicia was still reeling from her earlier encounter with Duke. Despite her shaken state, she resolved to attend class, maintaining her role as the villainess. Her classmates, including her brother, openly disliked her. Alicia had transferred into the class that day, claiming the coursework in lower grades was beneath her, though the truth was that she had studied tirelessly to keep up. Her condescending tone led Gale to call her crude, while Liz, ever the peacemaker, pleaded with the others to stop isolating Alicia. Even when Liz offered her friendship, Alicia coldly declined, keeping her focus locked on Prince Duke, who sat at the front of the classroom. After class, Liz tried once more to invite Alicia to lunch, but Alicia brushed her off, her gaze lingering on Duke's now empty seat. Liz, hurt but introspective, thought back to Alicia's sharp words from before and acknowledged her mistake in assuming people would naturally like her. Determined to start fresh, Liz resolved to truly understand Alicia. However, Liz's kind-heartedness represented everything Alicia disliked in people. Those with such personalities were universally adored and always paired with the prince. Feeling a pang of insecurity, Alicia snapped herself out of it and curtly declined Liz's invitation before walking away. Later, Alicia admitted that Duke might hold a special place in her heart, though she couldn't figure out why she struggled to act the part of a villainess around him. Gil advised her to distance herself from Duke to gain clarity, but Alicia rejected the idea, fearing it would look like she was running away, something a true villainess would never do. Determined to stop feeling sorry for herself and take action, Alicia set her sights on fixing her behavior. At lunch, Liz sighed as she noticed Duke sitting alone. Moments later, Alicia entered the room and boldly approached him. She commented on how unaffected he seemed and teased that she'd come to see him brooding. To everyone's astonishment, Alicia expressed her gratitude for his concern, even though she had never asked for his help. She admitted his efforts made her happy and apologized for her earlier harshness. Her candidness caught both Duke and Gil off guard. Alicia then chided him for watching over her from a distance and urged him to be direct. When Duke averted his gaze, embarrassed, she tilted his chin up and scolded him for expecting others to understand unspoken intentions. She declared that, as a villainess, she would always act boldly and protect those she cared about openly. Duke burst into laughter, promising not to hold back anymore. Nearby, Liz observed the exchange with a troubled expression. She stood up and reminded Duke that his absence from council meetings was hindering their music festival planning. Her tone betrayed a hint of sadness as she urged him to join her in discussing the matter. Duke, cheered by Alicia's words, left with Liz, who quickly masked her emotions and followed him. Alicia couldn't help but feel triumphant. Liz now viewed her as a rival, but Alicia knew she couldn't stop at being a romantic rival. To become the ultimate villainess, she had to measure up to Liz in every way. Just then, a student named Marika approached, asking Alicia for help and insisting they speak elsewhere. Suspicious of Marika's vague explanation, Alicia declined. When Marika dropped her books, Alicia used her magic to return them, wished Marika well, and left for class. As soon as Alicia was gone, Marika's demeanor darkened. She revealed she had secretly recorded the interaction for nefarious purposes, though she was unaware that someone else, Mel, had been silently observing everything. At the usual tea spot frequented by the male leads, Albert rose to his feet, giving Alicia a stern look as she arrived. Alicia explained that she had been summoned to the Rose Garden by an anonymous note, which she now realized was written by Jane. Jane stood waiting, ready to expose Alicia for allegedly bullying her dear friend, Arika. A setup became clear to Alicia. Jane accused Alicia of targeting Liz with relentless harassment and directing her pent-up frustrations at Marika. Marika then produced a voice recording, doctored to make it sound as though Alicia had tormented her. Gil immediately stepped forward to defend Alicia, but she stopped him, realizing the recording was crafted using advanced earth magic. Amused by the complexity of the trap, Alicia chuckled, thinking Jane had potential as a proper villainess. Liz asked Alicia directly why she would harass Marika, prompting the other students to clamor for an apology. Before Alicia could speak, Carol intervened. She argued that Alicia had denied the accusations and that Jane and Marika were merely trying to frame her. Jane fired back, but Mel stepped forward with the original recording, which revealed the truth. Marika had fabricated the entire incident. Gale demanded answers, and Marika confessed that Jane had coerced her into the scheme. The students turned their anger on Jane, who weakly defended her actions by pointing to Alicia's treatment of Liz. Liz stepped in front of Jane and apologized on her behalf, explaining that Jane's actions stemmed from her desire to protect Liz. While Alicia didn't accept the apology, she refrained from arguing further. Later, Mel approached Alicia with a wide grin, revealing herself as Alicia's biggest admirer. She praised Alicia's beauty and strong will, though her demeanor shifted as she openly admitted her disdain for Liz, finding her meddling nature grating. Before Mel could say more, Prince Duke pulled her away, apologizing for her strange behavior. He revealed that Mel was his spy, which Alicia found delightfully villainous. Duke admitted that he had assigned Mel to watch over Alicia, but had refrained from interfering to avoid limiting her freedom. He then confessed his admiration for Alicia's true self and decided to be honest about his feelings. Flustered but unwilling to show it, Alicia quickly made an excuse to leave, claiming she had an errand with Gil. As they walked outside, Alicia reassured Gil that her excuse wasn't just a diversion. They were indeed going to visit Grandpa Will. Reflecting on recent events, Alicia resolved to become the kind of villainess capable of truly captivating Prince Duke. When they arrived in Rona, they found Mate leading the village's newly formed Vigilant Corps, a group spearheaded by Will. The elder had regained his strength and vigor, having recently regained his sight. With dramatic flair, Will made his entrance, declaring it was time to discuss the future of Rona and his own hidden past. He revealed his full name, Will Seeker, the elder brother of the current king. Everyone was shocked to hear Will's story, and Alicia finally understood that the man she saw next to the current king's portrait was him. Gathered around the campfire, they listened intently as Will recounted his time in Rona. He revealed that he was the firstborn son of their father, but his mother passed away shortly after his birth. While other children his age spent their days with their mothers, Will immersed himself in studying magic. By the age of 10, he had already reached level 80. One day, during a tutoring session, he felt that anyone destined to rule their country should wield even greater power. Acting on this belief, he opened a window and cast a level 100 spell, much to his tutor's amazement. However, the spell spiraled out of control, covering the entire mansion in ice. Though Will survived, the incident left him unable to use magic ever again. A year later, his younger brother Luke was born to a lower-ranking noblewoman. As years passed, Will congratulated Luke on his coronation, and their father tasked Will with supporting the young king. Will accepted this role enthusiastically, as he believed himself capable of providing guidance. Luke himself admitted that no one was wiser than his older brother. With the help of 3 trusted sages, Will drafted policies to improve the kingdom, which Luke approved. However, their partnership ended when Luke rejected a proposal to divide power among the 5 great noble families. The Queen Mother opposed the idea, and Luke agreed with her. Afterward, Luke angrily told Will that he no longer wanted his counsel, reminding him that he was not the king. This argument marked the last time Will saw his brother. Shortly after, the Queen Mother falsely accused Will of plotting to harm the king. He was swiftly apprehended and banished, awakening to find his eyesight taken. Stranded in the remote village of Rona, he wept upon learning his fate. There were no official records of his banishment, as it had been carried out in secret by the Queen Mother and a few nobles. Even his 3 sages were exiled to Lovell to prevent them from aiding him. The kingdom's official story claimed that he had gone missing. Will speculated that he was banished because he was an inconvenience to the Queen Mother. He also believed Luke was unaware of the truth. Reflecting on his past, he admitted that he had failed to respect Luke's pride as king. Now he felt ready to confront his brother, not to seek vengeance, but to shed light on the injustices faced by the innocent people of Rona. Alicia commented that Will's warning about overestimating one's magic stemmed from his own painful experience. Nate was outraged that the king's brother had been cast out so cruelly without a trial. Will appreciated their support and revealed that sharing his story had given him the confidence to move forward. Alicia teasingly suggested that his newfound resolve might be part of a scheme for her to seize control of the village, but Will found the idea amusing and dismissed it with a chuckle. The next day, Alicia and Gil discussed how life in the village had improved. Their conversation was interrupted by a group of girls who expressed a desire to ally with Alicia, admitting they also disliked Liz, claiming the commoner like her has no place on the student council and accusing her of achieving this solely through charm. Alicia refutes their claims, stating that the heroine was inducted into the council because of her exceptional talent. She clarifies that her stance against Liz stems from their ideological differences, not personal dislike. Acknowledging the girls' gifts, Alicia suggests they confront Liz directly if they have a problem with her being a commoner. She also points out Gil's status and intelligence, declaring she prefers clever commoners to foolish nobles. The girls, offended, storm off. Meanwhile, Jane approaches Liz to apologize for spreading falsehoods about Alicia. Liz accepts the apology, feeling partially responsible as Jane's actions were done in her defense. However, Albert privately advises Jane to sever ties with Liz if she truly wants to show remorse. Later, the heroine's fan club decides to go out for tea, but they encounter the same girls who dislike Liz. Henry rushes to inform Alicia about the brewing tension, exciting the Villainess. Mel eagerly goes to fetch the prince, while Alicia follows behind. Finn and Curtis pause their game of catch to see what's happening. At the classroom, it's revealed that the girls told Liz that Alicia had been spreading malicious rumors about her. Alicia denies the accusation, and Liz believes her despite the girls' protests. Finn steps in, recounting how he saw the girls approaching Alicia earlier, only for her to ignore them. He explains that it was the girls who insulted Liz, not Alicia. With the truth exposed, Alicia turns her attention to the girls and begins mocking them. Liz tries to reprimand Alicia for her harsh words, but Alicia finds it amusing that Liz is now defending nobles who dislike her. Eric, annoyed by the situation, points out how compassionate Liz is and accidentally mentions the incident where she saved the school from a dark wolf attack despite her fear. This revelation piques Alicia's interest, but she chooses to leave the room now that the matter is resolved. The prince scolds Eric for revealing too much. Liz, overwhelmed by her emotions, releases an unusual aura. The aura affects the girls who dislike her, putting them in a trance-like state as they contradict their own disdain for Liz before leaving. Finn and Curtis observe the scene, finding it peculiar. Later, Alicia, Duke, Henry, and Jill enjoy tea in the garden. Alicia admits she expected more of a fight. The conversation shifts to the wolf attack, and Jill explains it occurred when they were kidnapped. Alicia suspects the wolf was summoned, as such creatures are native to Laval. She wonders if the neighboring nation is testing the saint, as Liz could pose a threat to them. Duke pulls Alicia aside to his private room at the academy. To her surprise, he knows about Will and asks her to leave the matter of his uncle to him. The prince reveals he attempted to visit Rona before she did, seeking to rectify the village's circumstances. Alicia guesses that this means he knows about Will's friends. Duke tries to reassure her, but when he leans in for a kiss, she headbutts him and declares she won't be tamed. Instead of discouraging him, this only increases the prince's desire for her. Blushing, Alicia leaves the room. During the lecture, the professor asked the class who knew about a recent illness known as Dotton sickness. Jill raised his hand, prompting murmurs among the students. They voiced their disdain, criticizing the servant boy for trying to stand out and even mocking Alicia for hiring a commoner. However, Jill confidently provided a perfect answer, explaining that the illness caused spots to appear all over the body, leading to the afflicted wasting away. The spots were deceptive, as the disease wasn't a skin condition, but an internal one. It primarily affected people in the Deegan River basin and was believed to be caused by the river's contaminated water. Later, in a more private setting, Alicia praised Jill's courage and composure. Just then, Duke and Mel burst in, playfully complimenting Alicia on her charm and diligence. Embarrassed, she accused them of trying to ruin her villainous image. As Liz's group passed by, she overheard Duke calling Alicia adorable, a sight that clearly filled her with resentment. Alicia explained the Deegan River's poor water quality was due to Laval's rapid industrial development. Since Durkis, located downstream, relied on the river, addressing the issue could strain diplomatic relations with Laval. Alicia mentioned a wonder drug found in Laval derived from a rare herb called Maddie, which grew only on steep, rocky cliffs in northern Laval. Jill, looking somber, revealed that Lona Village in Durkis had the highest infection rates of Dotton sickness. With no doctors and poor hygiene, most infected villagers succumbed quickly. In Duke's quarters, Mel asked him if he planned to stop Alicia, suspecting she might attempt to travel to Lovell for the herb. Duke admitted he wanted to stay by her side, but feared restraining her would stifle the free-spirited Alicia he cherished. Mel gushed over his heartfelt declaration. While retrieving a book Alicia had left in the library, Jill encountered Liz. She asked him to study with her, expressing a desire to learn more about Lona Village. Initially hesitant, Jill explained that outsiders and villagers often struggle to understand one another. However, Liz shared her belief that mutual understanding was possible with effort. As she spoke, a mysterious light surrounded her, putting Jill in a trance. Approaching him, she revealed she, too, was a commoner who had faced bullying at the academy. She wanted to collaborate on an essay to gain Duke and Alicia's approval. Jill, now entranced by her, began to see her in a positive light. Suddenly, Duke appeared, demanding to know what Liz had done to Jill. When Jill stepped defensively in front of Liz, Duke snapped him out of the trance. Liz protested that she wasn't finished speaking, but Duke dismissed her angrily, saying there was no need to continue. Jill and Duke returned to Alicia, where Jill confessed he couldn't fully understand what had happened. Duke warned Alicia to be cautious of Liz, gently touching her face before leaving her flustered. Meanwhile, Jill wondered about the meaning behind Duke's warning. Later, Mel informed Duke that she had made no progress in determining if the saint's abilities were tied to some form of malevolent power. Alicia decided to continue her research, leaving behind the earlier commotion. Meanwhile, Liz, still brooding over Duke's harsh expression toward her, began emanating an ominous dark aura. This sinister energy seemed to influence Jane in the cafeteria, who suddenly grabbed a pair of scissors, terrifying Carol. In the study, Alicia was lost in thought, pondering Dotton's sickness, the Lovell wolf, and the mysteries of the country itself. She realized she couldn't uncover these secrets without visiting Laval, something nearly impossible without exile. Her internal debate shifted between committing a heinous act or politely requesting the king's permission. However, her musings were interrupted by screams from the cafeteria. Arriving at the scene, Alicia found Carol trembling, her hair partially cut, while Jane ranted, blaming Alicia for everything. Jane accused Alicia of being the reason Carol admired her and mocked Carol for her supposed attempt to emulate Alicia by growing out her hair. Alicia, unimpressed by Jane's outburst, dismissed her accusations as irrational. Jane, however, continued berating Carol and cackled, declaring that Carol could never measure up to Alicia now. When Jane accused Alicia of being heartless, Alicia coolly admitted her lack of sympathy. She reasoned that if Carol aspired to be like her, she should learn to endure such incidents. A true villainess, after all, thrived on being hated. With a calm demeanor, Alicia gave Carol a reassuring look, even as Jane riled up the surrounding students by exaggerating Alicia's indifference. When Jane raised the scissors again, Alicia swiftly neutralized her with a blast of dark magic. Then, in a surprising act, Alicia cut her own hair to match Carol's, shocking everyone. The crowd, except for Jane's clique, praised Alicia's bold and empathetic gesture. Later, Duke saw Alicia's new haircut and found it adorable, so much so that it annoyed him because he hadn't been the first to see it. Mel expressed her gratitude to Alicia for standing up for Carol, revealing they were relatives. Around campus, Alicia's actions inspired other girls to adopt shorter hairstyles. Even Curtis and Finn noticed the trend, overhearing students debating over their allegiance to either Liz or Alicia. Curtis stepped in to diffuse the tension, charming the Liz supporters into calming down. Meanwhile, Jill observed that even Liz's most loyal followers seemed to waver. Alicia jokingly suggested she might be developing evil charisma, though Jill didn't find the comment amusing. However, Alicia couldn't deny the growing shift in student behavior. One day, she witnessed Marika and her group bullying Jane, blaming her for tarnishing Liz's reputation. Marika prepared to hurl more mud at Jane, but the mud inexplicably exploded, covering Marika and her friends instead. Alicia stepped in, rebuking the bullies and threatening them with her magic until they fled. Pleased with her own dramatic villainous lines, Alicia turned her attention to Jane. Despite Jane's resistance and insistence that she didn't need help, Alicia used her magic to clean her up, encouraging her to cry if she needed to. Jane stubbornly refused sympathy, but Alicia reassured her that frustration was part of growth. Left alone in the classroom, Jane finally broke down in tears, with Alicia ensuring her privacy. At the Royal Palace Library, Mel uncovered a breakthrough in ancient texts regarding the saint, finally finding crucial information that could change everything. She eagerly returns to the group, announcing her discovery about the saint's secret and its connection to Liz's unusual popularity. It turns out there's a type of magic called charm, which only the saint can use. Alicia admits that despite her extensive research, she's never encountered such magic. Duke explains that they found references to it in a book written in an ancient language. This spell is the basis for the legends about the saint spreading joy simply through her presence. The prince concludes that Liz has been unconsciously using this power, which only those with strong mana and willpower can resist. Gil realizes why he felt unexpected sympathy for Liz during his one-on-one interaction with her. Duke adds that he was usually unaffected because he spent most of his time with Alicia and Duke, who both possess powerful mana. However, he warns Gil not to approach Liz alone. The group shifts their discussion to strange occurrences, such as Jane's extreme behavior. The villainess theorizes that Liz has no control over her power, which likely worked fine until something disrupted its balance. The prince observes that the ancient book offers no guidance on countering this power. Henry suggests that developing doubts about Liz might break the spell's influence, using his own experience as an example. Determined, Henry, Gil, and Duke attempt to explain the situation to the sons of the 5 great noble families, but their efforts are met with resistance. Disheartened, they return to the group, reporting their failure. The prince then proposes holding the boys hostage until the spell naturally fades, even jokingly telling Alicia he wouldn't mind being her captive. Gil begins to suspect that the disruption in the saint's power might be linked to Alicia and Duke's feelings for each other. The villainess suggests confronting Liz and making her aware of the situation. Meanwhile, Liz's supporters assure her that Duke's warnings are baseless and likely fueled by Alicia's jealousy. They insist Liz has done nothing wrong and advise her to avoid the villainess. Grateful for their support, Liz accepts their advice. Later, the boys escort her out, only to encounter Alicia and the others entering the cafeteria. Gil and Albert block Alicia's path, refusing to hear her reasoning for wanting to speak to Liz. The prince devises a plan and tells the group to trust him. He joins Liz and her admirers for tea, cleverly luring her away with a small ruse. Thrilled to finally receive his attention, Liz follows him to his private quarters, only to find Alicia already waiting there. Disappointed, Liz listens as Alicia explains that she's been using the charm spell unknowingly, and that it's causing harm. Liz denies the accusation, insisting she isn't using any spell. Alicia hands her the ancient book, which details the unique magic exclusive to the saint. Liz remains skeptical, stating there's no proof she's employing this spell. However, the villainess counters that Liz's uncanny luck stems from the spell's ability to make others unconsciously fulfill her desires. Liz reflects on everything that has happened so far, deeply unsettled. She wonders why Duke dislikes her, and in a vulnerable moment confesses her love to the prince. However, his expression makes it clear he doesn't feel the same way. Resigned, Liz accepts the possibility that she possesses this unknown power. She admits that her only goal was to live up to the ideal of the saint, though Alicia notes that this ideal never truly aligned with Liz's real personality. Liz then boldly declares that she cares for the prince more than Alicia ever could. Duke responds firmly, stating that even if he had met Liz first, his feelings for Alicia wouldn't change. This confession makes the Villainess blush. In contrast, Liz finally vents her true feelings, admitting she has always despised Alicia. Just then, Albert and the others burst into the room. Albert demands that Liz leave his little sister alone. His overwhelming need to protect Alicia had overpowered the spell, and the others are also beginning to see things more clearly as the spell's effects fade. Liz, overwhelmed with emotion, struggles to come to terms with the fact that she unknowingly possessed such power. Alicia observes her silently, reflecting that if this were the happy ending of a game, love might have been enough for Liz. But in reality, survival takes much more than just romance. The Villainess sternly tells Liz to stop acting like a spoiled child. Instead, she advises her to think about her own happiness and strive to become the kind of saint she truly wants to be, rather than the one others expect her to be. Liz is deeply moved by these words. Wiping her tears, she resolves to change. Though she knows Duke likes Alicia, she decides not to give up on him just yet. Determined, she takes the ancient book to study, revealing that she can read the language. With her newfound clarity, she vows to dedicate herself to self-improvement, utilizing her academic skills. Everyone glimpses a more genuine side of Liz and finds it far more likable. That evening, Duke arranges a meeting between the king and his estranged brother. Alicia accompanies him, surprising the king. The moment he sees them, he realizes that it was Alicia who sacrificed her eye to save his brother. As the two brothers reconcile, Duke assures the king that his uncle will remain safe while they work to prove his innocence. Alicia also shares a revelation with Gil. No one currently residing in Rona has been exiled for crimes. This discovery means there is no reason to keep the village isolated any longer. Gil is delighted by this news. Alicia, feeling the weight of recent events, decides to take a break from watching over Liz. Meanwhile, Duke reassures Alicia that he's willing to wait for her response to his confession. The next day at school,